Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for the fourth explainer in our comprehensive series on human consciousness in the context of Indian knowledge systems and modern sciences. Today's explainer is titled Areas of Human Consciousness, and I want you to kind of think of our time together today as a grand, epic, cartographic journey. Because just like those early explorers mapped out the physical continents of the globe to figure out the world, today we're mapping out the elusive, deeply fascinating territory of our very own minds. We're going to investigate conventional scientific methods right alongside ancient spiritual philosophies to see exactly where our awareness truly originates. It's going to be a fascinating trip.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We have a clear roadmap today spanning 5 distinct areas, starting with Vedanta and the heart of consciousness, moving through Tantra, Sankhya Yoga, modern anatomy, and finally harmonizing it all together.
So, let's look at our first ancient map, Vedanta, and the heart of consciousness.
You know, in our modern day-to-day lives, if someone asks us where our awareness is, we almost intuitively point right to our heads, right? We think of our brain as our thinking self. But Vedanta completely flips the script. These ancient texts actually locate the true foundational seat of consciousness somewhere completely different. Not in the head, but directly in the heart. Just listen to this incredibly profound quote from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It says, "The self resides in the lotus of the heart, smaller than a grain of rice, but containing the entire cosmos." Think about that for a second. In Vedanta, Brahman is this ultimate, non-local reality everywhere at once. Yet the physical heart, what they call the Hridaya, is the distinct spiritual hub of your individual consciousness. It's the residence of the soul, the Atman. It's essentially the exact place where your personal, individual microcosm perfectly converges with the vast, universal macrocosm.
Now, this ancient map isn't just some beautiful poetry or abstract theory, it's highly practical. This concept actually comes to life through something called Hridaya Dhyana. This is a dedicated, meditative practice that focuses specifically on the heart space. And the goal here is to transcend the illusion of duality and actively unite with universal consciousness. Remember that metaphor of the pure lotus mentioned in the quote we just talked about? Well, the lotus is this incredibly powerful ancient symbol representing ultimate purity. By focusing deep within this pristine lotus of the heart space, practitioners are actually able to bridge their own localized individual awareness with the totally boundless cosmos around them. It's kind of like a single tiny drop of water merging back into the infinite ocean.
But this brings up a good question. How does this deeply seated consciousness actually interact with the busy outside world? Well, let's break down how the mind works mechanically in this tradition. In Vedanta, the mind essentially acts as a reflective medium for consciousness, literally like the moon reflecting the light of the sun. The chitta, which is the overall consciousness, functions through this beautifully integrated 4-step process. First, it begins with manas. That's the component handling all your immediate sensory processing. It's what interacts directly with the external world. From there, the data moves to buddhi, your intellect, which is what enables deep discernment and critical self-reflection. Then we hit ahamkara, and that is that deep-seated sense of I-ness, or the ego. That's the part that makes you feel like the active doer of your actions. And encompassing that whole entire system is chitta itself, the vast reservoir that stores your deepest memories and guides your ongoing mental patterns.
And understanding this exact structure of the mind leads us directly to one of the most powerful paradigm-shifting inquiries you can ever undertake. And that is the simple question, who am I? This single question formed the foundational method of the great sage Ramana Maharshi. It's a process known as Atma Vichara, or self-inquiry. And here's how it works based on what we just learned. When you ask this question earnestly, you are actively using your buddhi, your intellect, to critically deconstruct the ahamkara, the ego. By systematically peeling back those layers of sensory input and ego-driven identity, this profound meditative method strips away the daily illusions and ultimately reveals the true soul, the Atman, just resting peacefully underneath it all.
All right, shifting gears, let's look at our second map, Tantra, Centers of Energy.
So, from the singular, intensely focused space of the heart in Vedanta, we now expand our gaze to a comprehensive, full-body energetic map provided by Tantric philosophy. Tantra actually distributes consciousness across 7 primary focal points called chakras, and these are the areas where awareness intricately interacts with your physical body. Starting right at your base, the Muladhara or root chakra grounds your deepest survival instincts. Moving just above that, the Swadhisthana or sacral chakra governs your flowing emotions and creativity. Up into your core, the Manipura or solar plexus acts as your center for raw power and self-confidence.
Then we have the Anahata, or heart chakra, radiating love and outward compassion. Rising higher, the Vishuddhi, or throat chakra, manages your true communication and expression. Above that is the Ajna, famously known as the third eye, and this is the domain of pure intuition and insight. And finally, resting at the very apex is the Sahasrara, or crown chakra, representing ultimate spiritual unity and enlightenment.
So you might be wondering, how do practitioners actually use this intricate energetic map? Well, Kundalini Yoga is a perfect example. It's designed to awaken dormant energy, resting all the way down at the Muladhara root and deliberately direct it upward through the body to the Sahasrara crown. And let me tell you, this is an incredibly dynamic and physical practice. By energetically moving this consciousness up the spine, practitioners sequentially clear and activate the domains of each of those chakras we just went over. It is this amazing progressive journey of unlocking blockages, which ultimately results in profound spiritual realization and a massively heightened state of daily awareness.
Now, it's important to know that the chakras are really only the major intersections of this map. Tantra also identifies an absolutely astonishing 72,000 pathways called nadis, acting as vital conduits of consciousness flowing throughout your entire body. The two major pathways run right parallel to your central channel. You have the Ida nadi on the left side, which is deeply associated with lunar energy and carries your intuition. Conversely, on the right, the Pingala nadi is associated with solar energy and carries your logic. So when you engage in practices like Nadi Shodhana, which you might know as alternate nostril breathing, you are actively working to balance and harmonize these dual forces. You're literally bringing your intuition and your logic into perfect alignment to create profound emotional and mental equilibrium.
Moving right along to our third profound framework, Sankhya Yoga and the Eternal Witness.
This ancient philosophy takes a highly analytical approach. It focuses entirely on the ultimate nature of observation and existence itself. Samkhya clearly defines two distinct dual forces that make up literally all of reality. First, you have Purusha. This is the eternal, completely unchanging witness consciousness. It doesn't do anything, it merely observes. Opposite to it is Prakriti, which encompasses the entire material world, matter and nature in all its chaotic fluctuations. According to this map, human consciousness, as you and I typically experience it, is born during the dynamic, often messy interaction between Purusha and Prakriti. The ultimate goal for practitioners of systems like Ashtanga Yoga is to essentially stop getting caught up in the constantly changing, stressful material world of Prakriti. Instead, through deep, sustained meditation, they train themselves to identify purely with Purusha, that eternal, silent, unchanging witness.
And the ultimate destination of identifying with this pure witness consciousness brings us right back to a concept we just saw in the Tantric map, the Sahasrara chakra. Known in yoga as the gateway to liberation, it really symbolizes the absolute pinnacle of consciousness development. This connects directly to samadhi, which is the eighth and final limb of traditional yoga. In this transcendent state, the rigid boundaries of your own individuality completely dissolve. Your individual, localized awareness permanently merges with universal consciousness, placing you in a state of boundless, unconditioned being, where the observer and the observed become entirely one.
Okay, for section 4, let's pivot slightly. Anatomy, brain, and heart.
At the beginning, I promised you a complete, multidimensional cartographic journey today. So let's powerfully pivot our narrative away from these ancient metaphysical maps for a moment and look directly at modern science. Let's translate these incredible ideas into the tangible biology of human anatomy and physiology. Biologically speaking, the brain is widely recognized as the neurological origin of our consciousness, operating through highly specialized regions. First, your limbic system intensely processes your emotions and memories. It significantly influences how you consciously feel at any given moment. Meanwhile, your reticular activating system, or RAS, acts as a sort of volume dial for your brain, tightly regulating your basic wakefulness and moment-to-moment attention. And overseeing this whole operation is the highly evolved prefrontal cortex, which actively governs your complex self-awareness, critical decision-making, and logical reasoning.
Now here is where it gets incredibly fascinating. These ancient practices we've been discussing, they actually physically impact our biology in ways we can now definitively measure. Modern research reveals a staggering fact. Mindfulness meditation actively increases the density of gray matter in the prefrontal cortex. This proves that sustained ancient meditative practices don't just give you a temporary mood boost, they actively create measurable physical structural changes in your brain architecture. By simply focusing your awareness consistently over time, you can biologically upgrade your prefrontal cortex. And this neural upgrade directly improves your capacity to regulate difficult emotions and sustain deep, unbroken attention.
But of course, the brain doesn't act in a vacuum. Let's return to the very place we started our journey today, the heart. Biologically, we now understand the concept of the electromagnetic heart. This is the scientifically backed reality that the human heart produces a surprisingly potent electromagnetic field that is continuously 24/7 interacting with the brain. Just think about the magnitude of this discovery for a second. Contemporary biological research is surprisingly echoing the ancient Vedantic texts we looked at earlier. Modern science is proving right now that the physical heart possesses immense energetic power that actively and constantly affects our overall emotional consciousness.
And because of this continuous, measurable interaction, modern therapeutic practices have actually evolved to specifically utilize this biological connection. For example, heart math techniques emphasize establishing measurable physical coherence between the brain and the heart to foster highly intuitive decision-making and robust emotional stability. When you actively work to achieve biological coherence between these two powerful organs, often through focused breathing and positive emotional recall, you fundamentally alter your state of consciousness. We have essentially brought our physiological map completely full circle here, proving the tangible biological reality behind the ancient spiritual focus on the heart center.
Which brings us beautifully to our final section, harmonizing science and spirit.
The absolute crucial point I want you to take away from all these sources today is this: modern science provides the biological mechanics, while ancient philosophies provide the spiritual framework. These diverse maps of consciousness are absolutely not competing against one another. Rather, they are beautifully complementary views of the exact same territory. The sheer convergence of Vedanta, Tantra, Samkhya Yoga, and modern physiology creates an incredibly rich, multidimensional understanding of human awareness. You do not have to choose between the neurological biology of the prefrontal cortex and the subtle energy of the chakras. Together, side by side, they form a complete, holistic map of who and what you truly are.
As we conclude our journey, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. Which map of consciousness will you use to navigate your own mind today? Take a second to really ponder your own awareness. Think about how you process your emotions and how you choose to connect with the world around you. Thank you so much for joining me for this fourth explainer in our series. If you found this breakdown valuable and it helped expand your understanding of your own mind, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel so you never miss one of our deep dives. Keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next explainer.